What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Amir, Rahimi.
And this week on The Great Debaters, more Spice One. Alright, Amir, so we're back here on The Great Debaters. Of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to y'all as often as possible with as many interviews and episodes of The Great Debaters as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one, and we appreciate your support and getting us this far. Now today we're going with Spice One, 187 he wrote. This is his second Jive album, came out in 93. Spice One was on fire at this time. Trigger Got No Heart, Menace to Society. There's a lot going on with Spice One at the time. And now we get 187 he wrote. So Amir, what's your memories or experience getting into this project?
I don't remember like everything, to be honest, but I do remember seeing the video for Dumping Them in Ditches. Okay. That I remember, and I remember I was like, well, Spice One looks very tall. That was one thing that I first thought. I was like, he looks pretty tall, and he looks like he can beat a lot of people up. You know, I was like, this is just a tall, intimidating guy. Was when I first saw that video, is what I kind of thought, and yeah, that was my first thing. And then also on top of that, I remember that Tupac had also went and said that this album in particular is like the hardest shit ever recorded or something along. I may be butchering the quote, but he went along the lines of saying this is like the hardest shit or most gangster shit ever recorded. And I remember him saying that, and that also intrigued me. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, this album is pretty damn hard, so
makes sense.
Makes sense. But let's go ahead and get into one of my picks here. Right out, we're going with track number 1, I'm the Fucking Murderer, which if you were reading from the back of the CD or the tape, it's got like the pound sign and an exclamation point, a few things, and an ampersand. But I'm the Fucking Murderer is one of my picks. I love the voice in the beginning, that like creepy voice, studio gangsters calling them out and all this stuff, and then you hear Spice One go in, and I thought I think his flow is just, I love his flow, right? Throughout the course of his career, and especially in the early 90s, I think Spice One's flow was just out of this world. And then really super gangster, super hard. You get to the second verse, and I love how he introduces like his stutter rap again in this song, and I just love that. I love when artists do things their own way. Like Spice One, we'd also heard him do like the Rasta accent as well, and he does that on this album also, and he does that a lot. But then to hear like the stutter and all that, I just find it super awesome and catchy. And maybe for some people it doesn't work. For me, I think it's awesome. So that's dope. And then you get like the chorus, and that's crazy because no way would you guess this is like RBX, because the way that they use the sample,
yeah, they change it up sonically
it's
a lot.
So different. But then I would have never guessed it was RBX until I'm like, I'm the Fucking Murderer, and have you ever heard of a killer? I'm like, RBX said that on The Chronic. And I'm like, no way, this sounds nothing like you would never be able to tell unless you just knew the lyrics themselves. So that shocked me, but I thought that was dope too. The beat I love a lot. I just think to start the album like this and to name the song, that name is kind of wild. Like looking at this like back in the day, like I'm the what murderer? And then like track 2, Dumping Them in Ditches, and track 3, Gas Chamber, and Gas 4, 187 he wrote. And like this is a crazy track list. Like what am I about to see? And then you have the gun on the cover. I mean, Spice One is not holding back what he's trying to show on this album, and you can hear it throughout the album. And this is honestly a great intro. It's my first pick for the album.
I'm the Fucking Murderer is also one of my picks. It's an amazing song. Let's talk about the production for a minute. Prodigy did a great job on this beat, and man, the Why Is That piano that Boogie Down Productions had used it in a different way, but obviously the sound is similar. The RBX being used is amazing, and then when the stuttery flow, like Amir had said, that's one of my favorite Spice One things that he does. So whenever he does that, I get excited because it's so distinctive. And on I'm the Fucking Murderer, it's just like, dude,
God.
He's just going in. And it's just a powerful, powerful song. And this is one of those songs, too, you know, it kicks off 187 he wrote. It's very powerful. It's very, like, it's just one of those perfect entrees. Like, here, welcome to my album. This is what you're going to hear an hour of. And it's like,
yeah,
he's putting it down. So that's my first pick. And I think that the great thing, as we see, at least for me, and I'm sure this will be the case with Amir, there's so many different producers on 187 he wrote that bring different styles and sounds and feels that really help Spice One explore different things. And Prodigy, man, amazing work here on I'm the Fucking Murderer, man. It's just so great. So that's my first pick. Amir, what's your second pick on 187 he wrote?
So yeah, I mean, and what you were just saying about the producers. Now I'm looking at this, and let's just name a couple of them off there, because you know, this wasn't uncommon to have multiple producers on an album, contrary to what some people think. But
in 1993.
And in 1993, let's shout that out there. But we got, you know, Too Short on here, EAC, Prodigy, Mentally Blunted, Ant Banks, MC8, Johnny Z, and what the hell? That's how many did I just name? And so my second pick is actually one that I just talked about in the beginning of the video, and that would be Dumping Them in Ditches, and that is track 2 on the album. So to follow up I'm the Fucking Murderer with Dumping Them in Ditches is pretty wild. I just spoke about the music video. It's also interesting because I was just talking about how Tupac shout out this album and holds it in high regard. Well, Spice One also says I'm a crooked brother too, like Pac, in the song, so that was cool. I love the line where he says the Mustang, you know, the nuts hang and all this stuff, and I just thought that was just, the flow on that was awesome. And yeah, I think EA Ski, man, this beat is freaking awesome. The chorus is really, really, really dope as well. It's just like one of those signature Spice One songs. I remember also one of my friends was big on like gangster rap, and he hadn't heard of Spice One at the time. He was more like an LA gangster rap kind of guy. He hadn't heard anything from Northern California, and I had shown him Spice One. He's like, man, this is really good. I'm like, yeah, well,
go figure.
There's stuff other than just LA, you know. But
Schooly D.
Well, I knew Soren had to bring that up, but you know, Spice One, really on this song, it's a very catchy one. It's just excellent. His flow is awesome, and big time replay value for me. So that's my second pick.
Man, it's a great song, but it's not my second pick. My second pick is the title track, 187 he wrote. And I really, really like this song. The production is very, very different on here, but what I really like are the lyrics. And I think Spice One, and obviously this is a compliment in the highest regard, but literally this is a song that sounds like Scarface could have wrote it. And you're really getting into the frustration, the disappointment, the kind of this anger, but it's also in a subdued way, which is very atypical for Spice One's delivery, especially on this album. He's much more like aggressive throughout the majority of the project, and this one is just much more reflective. And I felt like listening to 187 he wrote, it just showed you who he is as a person, as opposed to always being the one pulling the trigger and being the murderer. It's like, hey, this is the guy that's has worries, that has concerns, that's not happy, that is going through mental situations where he's not comfortable. He's not the guy that, you know, we might imagine him to be, this superhero guy. He's a guy that has chinks in his mental armor. And I think that, to me, is the type of song that really adds a lot of heft and a lot of levity to the album, which I thought was amazing. And I just really think this is one of Spice One's great songs. And he has several, of course, but he has a lot of great concept songs and style songs and all this other stuff. But when you really get into it, 187 he wrote is so powerful because it shows this vulnerability. And when artists do that, I just think it adds so much character and depth and breadth to what they do. I just think it's amazing, man. So that's my second pick. You want to add anything on that, Amir, before we move on?
Well, what I will say is that I actually didn't have any pick like that from this album. All my stuff is very, very gangster. But no, I always love when an artist where you're not expecting something from, they shock you and they do something like that. And Spice One, man, great stuff.
So that being said, Amir, what is your third pick on 187 he wrote?
So my third pick, like I said, it's another one of the harder tracks on the album, in my opinion. Granted, really, most of the album's pretty hard, but I'm gonna go with 380 on that ass. And this is on the second side of the album, or of the tape, I should say. And Prodigy also produced this one. We have South Central Cartel on the feature list here, and I just love the song, man. I mean, first off, one thing that's very interesting to me is that Spice One spells his name backwards in the first or second bar, or whatever it is, and then he spells peace forward, so P-E-A-C-E. So I found that interesting. So he starts off backwards, then he goes forwards with a different word. So I found that it like tricked my brain a little bit, but it was also dope. And Spice One is rapping about guns and 380 and blah blah whatever. And then we get this awesome production, right? And then we have Spice One rapping again, and then we get kind of like a little break where they're saying, "Oh, why don't you fuck with the 9 no more? Oh, because I got the 380 and it fits better in my top," and all this stuff. And then we get South Central Cartel rapping on the last verse, and then I just love how they're kind of switching bars and stuff. And then they say the cartel's full of killers, and then this, and then they say the figgity fucking faculty. So I just like how I'm hearing more voices, different kinds of flows, stuff like that on this track. And I think Prodigy's production, man, is so, just like we were talking about on the first track of the album, I think on this one it's also just done so well, and I love that collaboration. And it's also a little more faster pace as well, so I like that about it too. It's just a song that I really, really, really like to visit, and I like collaborations like this too. So that, especially as well, one thing that I wanted to note here is that Spice One being from Hayward, but he's calling himself the East Bay Gangs, etc., and South Central Cartel, obviously repping South Central. I also love to see people from other cities collaborate. Granted, from the same state, but you know how many miles are in between?
Hundreds
of miles. I mean, you can cross through a few cities or states on the East Coast. But I always found that dope to see that happen. And we also have MC8 and other people on the album too, and Boss. But yeah, so that's my last pick.
That's not my second pick, but I enjoy it because I enjoy the whole album. But referencing or using somebody that you just mentioned, I'm going with MC8 in the Murder Show. This was prime MC8 era. Hearing the production that 8 did, people sleep on him as a producer, I think was amazing. So you see Prodigy, you see MC8 delivering this production on 187 he wrote. It's just amazing. But I really enjoyed the collaboration because, at this time, 8 was just killing the game, and this is no exception. And then hearing Spice One over, at least for what he was doing at the time, was a little bit different sonically. I always enjoy that, as my 3 picks on 187 he wrote really show. I enjoy hearing artists excel over different types of production and different subject matter, 187 he wrote being the most divergent of the 3. But I just thought, man, hearing those two guys together early in the game, and in 93, of course there were collaborations and they were starting to happen with more frequency, but it was still somewhat unexpected because Spice One they weren't on the same label, 8 and Spice One. So I just loved it, and hearing the type of beats that 8 was making at the time, always good. And yeah, so anyway, a lot of great stuff, and hearing their super hardcore lyrics, of course, is always good too. So anything you want to add on the merch show before we go?
No, it was a great collaboration. I think especially at the timing of their careers, I thought it lined up excellently, and I was happy to see that one. And that was also one that it was kind of fighting to be in my picks, but also, I mean, like I really love the beat on Clipping the Trigger a lot. Oh my god, I love that one. I mean, there's some...
Well, Trigger Got Snow Hearts, we'll put an asterisk and a shout out for that, just because Menace to Society, of course. So that's one of those songs that obviously I love. EA Ski, CMT put it down musically on that one, as they always do. But since I was familiar with the song and I knew it, I just wanted to highlight 3 others that I think are great. And I always look at songs like that. Sometimes they're still my favorite songs, but in this instance, 1A70 wrote has so many great songs. I think the other 3 are spectacular as well.
Yep, that's it.
Well, there it is, y'all. So you got my 3 picks. You guys got Amir's. Please, as always, hit us up in that comment section. Also, subscribe. And we appreciate your support with Unique Access. I'm Soren Baker.
Amir Rahimi.
Spice One, thank you for this, man. And so much great production on 1A70 Road.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
What's that 5 on Your MTV Raps with NWA?
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.